Financial fraud is not a niche problem that affects only the careless or the uninformed. It is one of the most widespread and financially damaging categories of crime in the United States, and it affects people across every income level, age group, and background. The Federal Trade Commission receives millions of fraud reports annually, and the actual incidence is substantially higher because most fraud goes unreported. The financial losses are significant, but the non-financial consequences, the time spent resolving identity theft, the damage to credit, the stress of navigating a compromised financial life, can be equally damaging. This video covers how the most common forms of financial fraud work, how to protect yourself proactively, and what legal rights and remedies are available to you when something goes wrong. Identity theft is the foundational fraud risk that underlies most other financial fraud. It occurs when someone obtains your personal identifying information, including your social security number, date of birth, financial account numbers, or login credentials, and uses that information to impersonate you for financial gain. The applications of stolen identity are broad. A thief with your social security number and basic personal information can open new credit cards in your name, take out loans, file fraudulent tax returns to claim your refund, open bank accounts, obtain medical services billed to your insurance, and in some cases create entirely parallel financial identities that take years to fully untangle. The most common methods by which personal information is stolen include data breaches, phishing, physical theft, and social engineering. Data breaches occur when the systems of companies or institutions that hold your personal data are compromised by hackers who extract that data. Major data breaches of financial institutions, retailers, healthcare providers, and government agencies have exposed the personal information of hundreds of millions of Americans over the past decade. The information compromised in breaches is frequently sold on dark web marketplaces and used to open fraudulent accounts months or years after the original breach, which is why a breach you learn about today may not produce visible fraud until much later. Phishing is the practice of sending fraudulent communications, typically emails, text messages, or phone calls, that appear to come from legitimate institutions and are designed to trick you into providing your login credentials, financial account information, or personal identifying information. A phishing email might appear to come from your bank, warning you of suspicious activity on your account and directing you to click a link and log in to verify your identity. The link leads to a convincing replica of your bank's login page, and the credentials you enter go directly to the fraudster. Phishing attacks have become increasingly sophisticated and are designed to be difficult to distinguish from legitimate communications without careful scrutiny. Physical theft of financial information occurs through methods including mail theft, which targets financial account statements, pre-approved credit card offers, and tax documents, dumpster diving through discarded documents containing personal information, and skimming devices attached to ATMs and point-of-sale terminals that capture card data when you swipe or insert your card. Skimmers are designed to be nearly invisible and are particularly prevalent on ATMs in low-traffic locations and on gas station pumps. The data captured by a skimmer can be used to create a clone card or to make unauthorized online purchases. Social engineering exploits human psychology rather than technical vulnerabilities. It involves manipulating someone into voluntarily providing information or taking an action they would not otherwise take if they understood the true nature of the request. The grandparent scam, in which a fraudster calls an elderly person claiming to be a grandchild in urgent financial trouble and requesting immediate wire transfers, is a widely documented example. Government impersonation scams, in which fraudsters pose as IRS agents, Social Security Administration representatives, or law enforcement officials and threaten legal consequences unless immediate payment is made, are another common form. The urgency and authority projected by these scams are designed to override the target's normal skepticism. Proactive protection against identity theft and fraud operates on several layers. The most fundamental is limiting who has access to your personal information and how it is stored and transmitted. Your social security number should be shared only when absolutely necessary and with verified legitimate parties. Financial account numbers should not be transmitted through unencrypted channels. Documents containing personal financial information should be shredded rather than discarded in regular trash. Mail that contains sensitive financial documents should be collected promptly or directed to a secure mailbox. Strong, unique passwords for every financial account, combined with two-factor authentication, significantly reduce the risk of account takeover through credential theft. A password manager simplifies the use of unique, complex passwords across multiple accounts without the need to memorize each one. Two-factor authentication requires a second form of verification beyond the password, typically a code sent to your phone or generated by an authenticator app, which means that a stolen password alone is insufficient to access the account. Monitoring your accounts and credit regularly is one of the most effective early detection mechanisms available. Reviewing your bank and credit card transactions frequently, ideally weekly, allows you to identify unauthorized charges quickly before they accumulate or escalate. Checking your credit reports at least once per year allows you to identify new accounts opened in your name without your knowledge. Many financial institutions and credit card issuers now offer real-time transaction alerts that notify you immediately when a charge is made to your account, which makes unauthorized activity visible almost instantly. A credit freeze, also called a security freeze, is the most powerful tool available for preventing new fraudulent accounts from being opened in your name. A credit freeze restricts access to your credit report, which means that when a fraudster attempts to open a new credit account using your information, the lender pulls your credit report, finds it frozen, and is unable to process the application. A credit freeze is free to place and free to lift at each of the three major bureaus under federal law. It does not affect your credit score, does not prevent you from using your existing accounts, and does not prevent you from checking your own credit. The only inconvenience is that you must temporarily lift the freeze when you legitimately apply for new credit yourself, which takes a few minutes online or by phone. For people who are not actively applying for new credit, maintaining a permanent credit freeze at all three bureaus is one of the most effective proactive identity theft protections available. A fraud alert is a less restrictive alternative to a credit freeze. A fraud alert notifies lenders that they should take extra steps to verify your identity before opening new credit in your name. An initial fraud alert lasts 1 year and can be placed for free at any one of the three bureaus, which is required to notify the other two. An extended fraud alert, lasting 7 years, is available to confirmed victims of identity theft. A fraud alert is less protective than a freeze because it does not block access to your credit report, but simply flags it, and not all lenders perform the additional verification step as carefully as intended. Understanding your consumer rights in the financial system provides the framework for what you can do when fraud occurs despite your protective measures. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, which was introduced in the previous module in the context of credit, also governs your rights when fraudulent information appears on your credit report. You have the right to dispute any inaccurate or fraudulent account on your report, and the Bureau is required to investigate and remove items that cannot be verified. Confirmed identity theft victims can request a block of fraudulent information through a formal identity theft report filed with the FTC through the Fair Credit Billing Act, commonly called the FCBA, governs billing errors and unauthorized charges on credit card accounts. Under the FCBA, your liability for unauthorized credit card charges is capped at $50, and most major credit card issuers have adopted zero liability policies that go further and cover the full amount of unauthorized charges. To invoke your FCBA rights, you must dispute a billing error in writing within 60 days of the statement on which the charge appeared. The issuer must investigate and respond within a specified time frame, and you are not required to pay the disputed amount while the investigation is pending. For debit cards and electronic fund transfers, the governing law is the Electronic Fund Transfer Act, commonly called the EFTA. Debit card protections are less generous than credit card protections. Your liability for unauthorized debit card transactions depends on how quickly you report the loss. If you report within 2 business days of discovering the unauthorized activity, your liability is limited to $50. If you report after 2 business days but within 60 days of your statement, liability increases to $500. If you wait more than 60 days, you may be liable for all unauthorized transfers that occurred after the 60-day period. This is one of the structural reasons financial professionals generally recommend using a credit card rather than a debit card for everyday purchases where fraud risk is higher, such as online shopping. The credit card protections are simply stronger. When fraud has occurred, the remediation process involves several parallel tracks. Filing a report with the FTC generates an official identity theft report that you can use to dispute fraudulent accounts and access extended fraud alerts. Filing a police report, while not always productive in terms of criminal prosecution, provides documentation that is sometimes required by creditors during the dispute process. Contacting each financial institution where fraudulent accounts were opened and requesting that the accounts be closed and removed from your records is the direct remediation step. Placing a credit freeze at all three bureaus prevents additional fraudulent accounts from being opened while you work through the resolution process. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, commonly called the CFPB, is the federal agency established specifically to protect consumers in the financial marketplace. It supervises banks, credit unions, and other financial companies, enforces consumer financial protection laws, and accepts complaints from consumers about financial products and services. If you have been unable to resolve a dispute directly with a financial institution, filing a complaint with the CFPB creates an official record and often prompts a response from the institution that direct contact did not. The CFPB complaint portal is available as financial fraud and identity theft are not problems you can fully prevent through any combination of measures. The scale of data breaches alone means that your personal information has almost certainly already been exposed in some form. What protective measures accomplish is reducing your vulnerability, increasing the speed with which you detect problems when they occur, and ensuring that you understand the legal tools and remediation processes available to you when they do. The combination of proactive protection, active monitoring, and knowledge of your rights as a consumer is the most effective posture available, and it is significantly more effective than either complete vigilance or complete passivity.